Hello and good morning. Today is Friday, November 27th. It is Friday of week 8. I hope that you all have enjoyed your Thanksgiving holiday and that you've had a safe and restful respite from this unprecedented fall quarter of 2020. So today I'd like to just take a moment and tell you a bit about, remind you about what's coming up and tell you a bit about the assignment for this week, which you will complete during week 9. So first of all, I just would like to remind you about the schedule for the remainder of the quarter. We now only have 2 weeks left this quarter, which is kind of amazing in this bizarre 2020 fall quarter situation that we've got going. Over the next 2 weeks, you have one assignment. That assignment is assignment number 7. It's going to be due next week. And so next week, over the next few days leading up to your discussion sections, you will complete assignment number 7, which is now posted on GauchoSpace. It involves 2 podcasts and 2 short articles. You should be able to get through it pretty quickly and answer the questions. You'll come to your discussion section as usual. You'll participate in your pods, and then you will submit your assignment, just like every other week, by Thursday at noon. So that's what's going to happen this week. The following week is week 10. That's the last week of the quarter. As you know, we don't have a final, so we're not going to be doing anything on finals week. Week 10 is reserved for those of you who got an unsatisfactory on one of your previous assignments or who weren't able to submit it at all for one reason or another, and there could be many over the course of this quarter. The reason we reserved week 10 is that we want to give folks every opportunity to do well in this course, given the unprecedented situation with which we're dealing this quarter. And so if you received a U on one of the assignments you submitted, or you weren't able to submit an assignment, you can make up one during week 10. Look for correspondence from Pablo, either in your discussion section or by email, to let you know how to do that, the most efficient and effective way to get that in, so that you can get credit for that assignment that you either got a U for or that you were not able to submit. Our final assignment is coming up this week. I want to thank you all for all the hard work you've done on the first 6 assignments, including the 2 book clubs. Our last book club was also, just like the previous one, a really great discussion. I appreciate how engaged everybody's been, how hardworking they've been. And I think that the 2 authors that we've had, Ben Goldfarb and Rachel Newer, have really also appreciated the opportunity to meet with you, to talk with you, to hear your questions, and then to ask you one of their own. So thank you so much for all that hard work. Your final assignment for this quarter is going to build on some discussions that you've had in various ways a little bit earlier in the quarter and try to clarify them in a sense based on some feedback that Pablo and I have received over the course of the quarter. One of the most important and challenging issues related to conservation in the 21st century isn't climate change, although climate change is incredibly important. It isn't habitat loss, although habitat loss is incredibly important. It isn't overexploitation of the kind that we read about with Rachel Newer's book last week, although that's incredibly important too, or any number of other things that are affecting wildlife in their habitats and ecosystems. One of the most important issues is how to get people from very diverse viewpoints, diverse histories, diverse cultures, diverse identities, to come together around conservation ideas that people can agree on and then work toward. It's this issue of how to incorporate diverse perspectives into a conservation agenda that benefits both people and ecosystems, including the other species that inhabit them, the wildlife species that have been the focus of so much of this course. And so for this final week's assignment, like I said, based on some feedback I've gotten from some of you and also from Pablo, I wanted to focus on some of these diverse perspectives and ways that conservationists can actually think about integrating them into a new form of conservation that's more inclusive, that's more responsive to people's needs, and that is also more successful at actually achieving some of the conservation goals that we've been working toward for a very long time in this country and elsewhere. And so I provided you with 4 activities this week. As you may notice, earlier in the quarter, we had as many as 8 activities. We've kind of gone down with the number of activities. We've had reduced them over the course of the quarter, and I hope that that's helping you manage some of the work that you're trying to do in this class and in others. For our final assignment, we have 4 activities. Activity 7A gives you an opportunity to hear diverse perspectives and to think about diverse approaches to the management of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, one of the last great wilderness areas in North America, which has been reserved for many years, but now is potentially being opened up, or being discussed as being opened up for further development, particularly for fossil fuel extraction. People have been talking about opening up the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, or ANWR, to fossil fuel development for a very long time. The Trump administration is making a push to try to do more of this in the final days of its administration before President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris take over with the new Biden administration. But what this brings up is a variety of ways that people, including indigenous people, including newcomers, including corporations, government agencies, and others, at the local, the regional, state, and the national level, have attempted to think about this place that potentially holds fossil fuel riches, but is also a vast, remote, and sensitive ecosystem, and that if developed for its fossil fuel extent, could make a significant impact in fueling global climate change, both literally and figuratively. And so that's Activity 7A. It's a great podcast. It provides a lot of different perspectives, and I think you'll very much enjoy it. Activity 7B is another case study from a different podcast, from a different radio show, and I think it's one that you'll really get a kick out of, and also may provide you with some interesting insights. And so that's called Stranger in Paradise. Yes, that's right. I've listened to this one several times. I really enjoy it. It's got a little bit of a twist ending to it. And it tries to convey the sense to which people from different cultures with different national identities view the same species in different ways. And what that means for the way we think about by the biological species with which we share our habitats, the way we think about managing them, the way we think about conserving them, and even the way we describe what they are and the way we name them. And so the second podcast, Activity 7B, I think will provide you with yet another example of the diversity of viewpoints on wildlife and how they shape human interactions with other species in these habitats that we share. The final two activities for this week are brief articles that have been published over the last several years by conservationists trying to think about how to develop a more inclusive form of conservation that incorporates more diverse perspectives, that brings more people to the table, and unites more people around a set of common goals by which conservation can actually achieve some of its objectives that conservationists themselves have been working for a very long time. This, in a sense, is a little bit of a continuation of some materials that you read earlier in the quarter, particularly the article you read several weeks ago on Who's Conservation For? And so the idea here is to provide you with some sense of how people in the conservation community are thinking about this, some of the ideas that they're proposing, and some of the ways that conservation may develop into a more inclusive, but also hopefully a more ambitious endeavor in the years to come. In your individual questions for this week and in your pod questions, you'll be asked to both summarize some of these materials, including the case studies that I've provided you with, and also to reflect on what they might mean in terms of crafting a truly inclusive, a truly diverse, and a much more effective form of conservation for the 21st century. I encourage you to sink your teeth into them, to have some fun with the podcasts, to enjoy them, to come to my office hours if you'd like to discuss them further, and to just try to get the most that we can out of the materials that you've been given during this very strange quarter. I'm going to record one more video next week, our final video for the week, or final video for the quarter. And so in that video, I'll try to give you some reflections on what I think we've done here, on some of the things that we were able to achieve, also on some of the things that we missed out on because of this quarter, and to leave you with some thoughts of where this all might go from here. So I encourage you to tune in for that final video next week. I wish you good luck on your final assignment, and I hope to be hearing more from you all over email and office hours, and in all the ways that we've been communicating so far this quarter. Thank you so much. Good luck, and have a peaceful, safe, enjoyable, restful rest of your Thanksgiving break leading into these final 2 weeks of the quarter.